And now, in keeping with the stated round-robin objective of the evening, once again, please welcome Mr. Geoff Carter.
Diane, I saved a seat for you up front. It's right next to Jennifer. That's Diane, everybody. Everyone look at her.
Don't turn around! Don't turn around! Trying to tell her some song, all of you.
And look, Doug's taping. I have Doug Jablin on the video tonight. Let's give it up for Doug. Of course, none of you are going to see it unless you pay your $19.95 tonight and wait 6 weeks. I got 3 pieces. One small, one medium, one large. And then I'm done with y'all. I was reading up on George Gershwin today. Love Gershwin. He was my brother. About Rhapsody in Blue, which was a piece he partially composed on the train going to the festival where he was supposed to perform it. And it's where of its creation, he said, "I frequently hear music in the very heart of noise." And that, I think, along with select pieces by Mark Twain, not the boring ones, inspired me to become a writer in the first place. Anyway, today I was reading about the first time he performed Rhapsody in Blue. And he was the featured pianist, he was the featured soloist, because he hadn't finished writing the piano part yet. And by the end of it, he had been pounding the keys so hard that his fingers were bleeding. And he had to go off stage and get bandaged before he could come out and take his bows. And I was reading that and I'm like, God damn, man, I love writing. You know, it's not the same thing, but it's close. So anyway, here's a couple of pieces that have absolutely nothing to do with that. This one's untitled. I dedicate it to Mr. Richard Abowitz because I was waiting for him at the Double Down. We were going to have beers. I saw his car pull up. I got a blast of inspiration. I wrote this and I wrote the last line as he walked in the door. Once so obnoxious, now a sound as comforting as dawn. Oh, punk rock, in all your bluster, comfort my soul as I get older and older here at the hipster bar. A sound as reassuring as the sight of 4 guys sitting around reading zines. The literacy never died. Next. Oh, no. This one is, it's kind of an inside thing. It bears 2 dedications, one to Alan McDougall, who, rest his soul, who didn't necessarily like my stuff, but I loved his. He was one of the best reasons to come to the poetry readings at Enigma, at Java Hut, at Cafe Espresso Roma. He would read pieces so full of his life, and then just to show you that he wasn't fucking around, he'd read them in German or Russian or Ukrainian or something. Yeah, for all I know, he could have been just making it up. And the other dedication is for Mr. James Reza, who gave me my first significant writing job and kind of helped me to go native. I've been here 9 years. I'll be here 10 years next fall. I'm almost ready to leave. This one's called Wuzza. If it gets repetitive, walk outside, walk around, come back in. The winter of 1990 was a cold winter in Las Vegas. The sprinkler system in front of my parents' house was faulty and icicles hung from the palms. The Mirage was Steve Wynn's only strip resort. Berlin was 2 halves of a whole. Catherine was my fiancée. Kurt Cobain was a punk musician. Jane's Addiction was a band for the first time. Rainbow Boulevard was the last overpass on northbound US 95. Las Vegas was still more space than anything. Gregory Crosby was lost in San Francisco. Diane Cazillo was waiting tables in Detroit. Matt Groening's Life in Hell was funny. The wife of a car salesman was mayor of Las Vegas. The Rainbow was a cafe. The poetry was alive. The acoustic musicians had an asylum. The Shaken Dominoes was the only band that ever played anywhere. The sports pub was not a place you set out for, but a place you ended up. The Crystal Method was two drunk, irreverent Rock Avenue DJs. K1V was a student-run radio station. LA was in flames. The Huntridge was a Spanish-language movie house. Benway Bop was a new record store, and the coffee houses up the street were just beginning to get busy. Catherine was lured away by another man. I was devastated. I was compelled to reconstruct myself. I was reborn barefoot on the burning embers of a bonfire. The internet was still mostly text, no pictures. The Enigma Garden Cafe was open. The Double Down was white walls and a cool jukebox. The Gulf War was proving to be something very different from what we thought it was. Bracken Street was a street of artists. The Lollapalooza was a rock festival. Dayvid Figler was a guy with a few funny lines and a monologue about bowling. Gregory Crosby was the professor. Mark Huff was an opening act for Bob Dylan. Hostage Symphony was the next big thing. Panina Finger was the best goddamn poet in Las Vegas. And Scope Magazine was the only local magazine that fucking mattered. Thanks.
Yeah.
AOL was filling up fast. It was not so strange to know someone without knowing what they looked like. A menage a trois was something just for 3 people to do. The Committee for Public Safety was peaking. The nation was dancing the Jason Quiggle Wiggle. Dina Rash was Anson. Radio was virtual. Felicia was a girl I'd met at one of Gregory's New Year's Eve parties. I'd realized my life was slowly slipping away in dead-end jobs. John Emmons was shot in the back the night I drove Courtney Love back to the Aladdin. As a precaution, the Aladdin was blown up a few years later. As were the dunes, the sands, the hacienda, the landmark, the desert rose, the Chateau Vegas, the sky over Fremont Street, that hippie shop of Rick Hooper's, and anything else that was perceived as halting the march of progress. Emmons was safely returned to the bosom of his friends and family, but was never the same. Everyone was wondering if Michelle and I were in love or just sick. The CAC was evicted. Vegas was beginning to look more like LA. Fremont Street Reggae and Blues was driven out. The adulterous president was called on the carpet for the first time. Patrick Gaffey was struggling with the original Las Vegas Weekly. Vegas was possessed of at least a dozen good cafes. Alan McDougall was a poet in paradise. Mary Lee was looking for identity. Renee Battle was on a sofa at Copio writing red pen erotica. The Huntridge was without a roof. Moss was beaten up after a Man or Astro Man show. Figler was very much in demand as a slam poet. Julie was tired of running Enigma and sold it to Len. Winona was here and then she was gone. Daniel Malner was here and then he was gone. Gina Mainwall, Mike Upchurch, Paul Summers, Suzanne Katzanik, Ron and Kelly. There was scarcely enough time to kiss them goodbye after kissing them hello. Scope was bought by the Sun, and selling out was the order of the day. Doug Jablin was one with India. Mr. Bondi was one with a Burning Man. Josh Abbey was the sole resident of Cinevegas. I was introduced to Diane, which I reckon brings me up to last month. I was laying on a Thailand beach running 10 years backward, and I realized just in time what a good 10 years it was. But now they're done, and what was, was. People love the confessional stuff. I made all that shit up. All right, this one is horribly depressing, but I'm going to read it anyway. Because Figler's up next, and he's got funny. He's got funny. He'll be showing you the funny. Hang on, I need water. Is this full?
That ain't water.
This is water. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Geoff, you look like you've lost weight. You're wrong. It's still sexy, though. Ooh. This is called Americana Entwined. And it's about, well, you'll hear what it's about. Something is going to happen. You see, Rockabilly Kate just called. I haven't heard from Rocky since '94. She married, she moved away, she divorced, she came back. Not that I needed the call. You know when something is cooking, the air becomes more dense, the sunlight bends around corners. Well, it does for me anyway. I don't know how you know the future, or even if you do. If you don't, it's your loss, or maybe your gain. Anyone who's ever been dumped knows how to predict the future. I can just do it with more accuracy than you can. Rockabilly Kate is her lounge name, gave me the gift in 1993. Since then, I've known how every last one of my relationships was going to end from the initial howdy-do. It's like watching a Polaroid develop. It takes a couple of days. I had that feeling now. But there's no time to watch the picture come together. We meet for dinner tonight at LeMay's. Dinner? Dinner? Shit almighty, I haven't done a fancy dinner in years. I need clothes, and what's in my closet will only get me to the door. I need help. I need Sarah. Do you know what the secret is? I ask Sarah. Freddie Hubbard. Freddie Hubbard, she repeats. Put your leg up here so I can pin it. Opting for a simple black vintage-style single-breasted suit. When in doubt, Kate used to say, look to the Rat Pack. I could reduce her to human size with Freddie Hubbard, pensativa. We'd dance around the kitchen like idiots, before it became somewhat hip to do that. Does she know to what extent she wrecked you? Sarah asked, mouthful of safety pins. How badly she screwed you up? Probably not, no. And does she know that you're deferring to her tonight, that you're leaving yourselves wide open? She'll know the minute she sees the suit. But I don't say anything. I don't tell Sarah how I still feel about Rocky, and I don't tell her about the gift of opulence Rocky gave me. Aside from you, I haven't told anybody. The last time. Rocky and I had gone to a movie that night, a revival of Casablanca. She wore her leopard print overcoat and black velvet catsuit, her hair cut in that punkishly short manner. I hated short hair on women, and she knew it. Today I look back and pinch myself hard for not appreciating the beautiful visage she presented that night. Bergman left Bogart, we went home and made love, and when we were done, as the sweat began to cool on our bodies and I ran my hand over the fuzz on the back of her head, saying her name over and over again, she told me that we were over and that the session of lovemaking we had just enjoyed would be our last. Why did I say employed? Insignificant details here, crying, pleading, promises beyond keeping. It was only when the gravity had taken me, when the no really meant no, that I had my vision. I closed my eyes to squeeze the tears out, and I saw one after another, series of women's faces. Every last one of them was different, framed by blonde, brunette, red hair, green eyes, blue eyes, gray eyes. All they had in common was an expression of true sadness, followed by a sudden and decisive turn of the head. There were 12 of them. Since Rocky, I've had 12 lovers. When I met them, the face was the first thing that hit me. The rest came to me over a couple of days. And even if I tried to resist, to avoid the pain and heartache by not getting involved, I would undo myself somehow. A late night visit, a booty call, and I'd begin the slide. Rocky was a fatalist. I've become one by proxy, which is why I'm rather anxious to have dinner with her tonight, to see her face and the future it holds. That's a beautiful suit, says Rocky after we hug. Pure Sinatra, you've learned a lot. She looks stunningly fresh, much to my chagrin. I was rather hoping for 10 miles of bad roads, some weathering to assuage my still smarting ego. In her white Angora sweater and black skirt, she could be Billy Wilder-era Shirley MacLaine. I feel not only underdressed, but not bright enough by half, like I'm pulling her light away. I bet you know what I'm thinking, I say, pulling her chair out and seating myself at an angle from her, facing the door. Old habit. She smiles. I might. I might also like to hear you say it. She's teasing me. My darling, I say, reaching back to a time when we felt good together. You got enough sugar on tonight to make a baker's dozen. I wish I could say I don't feel right saying the old things, acting the old way, but I do. And who knows what she's up to. Being frightened would be equal to being smart. I'm not either. I've proven as much by simply showing up tonight. You've been around a bit, Rocky says. We are into our second bottle of wine and are beginning to tell the truth. Her truth. She doesn't like the history I've made in her wake. I sip my Cabernet. So much with Rocky is slow work, diffusing a bomb. I haven't missed this part. The world has been around a bit, hasn't it? 5 years since you hung me out to dry. What was I supposed to do? A baker's dozen, apparently. 12 women. That's a softball team with relief pitchers. I almost said like I had a choice, but I didn't. In keeping with the off-kilter nature of the evening, she says it for me. I reckon you didn't have much of a choice, says Rocky. The weird fucking things we do when we get lonely. Her words hang in the air like those of a comic book character as I wave at the waiter for the coffee. We are standing in front of LeMay's, bored and frustrated. I'm frustrated, she's bored. Or perhaps it's the other way around. What did you think was going to happen tonight, she asks. I don't know. Something, nothing, something shaped like nothing. She takes a sudden fierce interest in her shoes. I know what I did to you. I know. But I've had my own problems, you know. Gary leaving me fantastically hard, more than you would believe, I'd bet. I don't care, I say, surprising myself. She looks up sadly, pulls me close. I feel her breath gentle and yielding on the back of my neck. She kisses me right below my left ear, playfully, I think, bites the lobe and starts to say something. No, I bluster and I push her away. And she says, what? Looking genuinely surprised. I said no, god damn it. You're not buying your way back in. Who said a thing about getting back in? You want to get naked, I want to get naked. It's not a buy, it's a freaking barter. Forget it. You know something? You haven't changed one damned bit. You're still all about you're like a fucking starlet demanding stuff from behind the locked door of a trailer. It won't work. You wrecked me in a way far worse than breaking my heart. You gave me this head full of bad shit that I didn't want, you know, that I don't deserve. I was nothing but good to you, and I don't deserve this. I stop short just before my voice breaks. She can push me, but she will not make me cry one more tear. A full moon hangs low in the sky, ringed by a halo of cloud. If this were an enchanted night, if this were a normal city, if we were real people. You need to come home with me, she pleads, following me to my car. I'm not in the mood for this, not one bit. You don't have a home, Rocky. That was always your problem, will always be your problem. And it's not mine, not anymore. I keep walking. Please stop, she says, and I do. Damn me. I share this place with Heather Travers. You remember Heather? Big, blonde, scary bitch, you called her. I said it out of love, I deadpan. The apartment is as bare as the day it was built, unpacked boxes, furniture with tarpaulins all over it. She hasn't been here long enough, and she won't stay. Do you want a drink, she asks. I've water, OJ, Newcastle, a couple of frappuccinos. No. All right, then. Come in here and sit down. She gestures into the open bedroom. Don't get started. I just want to talk, and this is the only thing I have that's like a sofa. Leave now. All right. I step gingerly into her bedroom. There's underwear and makeup all over the floor, sit on the bed and resign myself to the pain. Why? Because every strange dream has to end some way, and I've tried everything else. We don't have to make love tonight, she says, her nude body draped over mine. Not if you're not into it. She's mocking me. Rocky is mocking me, mocking my lack of resolve, mocking the way I still feel for her body like a tall idiot, mocking my very character. It doesn't make me sad, it doesn't make me sentimental, and the only reason it feels right is because halfway through dinner, I saw the end of this evening, and it ended with my making love to Kate. No, I say with deep resignation, we don't have to make love tonight. The last thought that crosses my mind before we start making love and stop thinking anything is tomorrow is another goddamn day. We sleep, we wake, we sleep. She rises before I do, starts puttering around in the kitchen. I smell coffee. It encourages me to get dressed. It was nice, wasn't it? She asks, coffee in hand. Yeah, nice, I say, putting the other shoe on. Glad I could help. She sighs. Please don't be like that. Don't be like what? Hurt? Used? Jesus, Kate, you just don't quit, do you? I'm sorry. You should be. 5 freaking years I bore the weight of this thing. Thanks for the extra bag. I took it away, she says quietly. Whatever, Rocky. I make my way to the door thinking, what's the matter? The problem, in your head, seeing the future. I stop dead, turn to face her. I took it back last night. It was never for you. It was a spell I'd cast on a guy I'd been seeing behind your back. He hurt me, so I decided to put a lingering hurt on him, but I screwed up and gave it to you instead. I am struck dumb. She goes on apace. Look, I was bad and I was wrong. I know that now. I took the spell on myself last night, and I'll carry it for as long as you did. Whatever goes around comes around. For 5 minutes, I say not a word. I just stare at her and let the pieces come together in my head. How do you know all this? It wasn't the question I wanted to ask, and she gives me the answer I didn't want to hear. Because last night, I saw you walk out my door this morning. And it hurts, boy. It really fucking hurts because I still love you. But it's what I have to do. I've seen it. And I know she's telling the truth because the future is blank to me. I can't see a bit of it. I turn back toward the door, then turn again sharply. This is for you, I murmur, pulling a Freddie Hubbard tape out of my pocket and handing it to her. Thank you, she says. I find myself unable to look at her crying. I turn away, walk to the door without a word, walk through it and out into the world, driven by something bigger. And even if I wanted to go back to Rockabilly Kate now, I could not. Something is going to happen in her life, and I am not part of it by the sweep of an alien hand. Needs one more rewrite. And now, Dayvid Figler.
The others will stave off applause. I embrace it. Thank you. I have to put on a different hat for a second. Next Thursday, a week from tonight, at the Cafe Espresso Roma, I'm presenting a poet from New York named Adina Karasik, and she'll be reading with the fabulous Bruce Isaacson from here. There's some flyers in the back with the information on your way out. You're all good citizens of the county. You paid for them. You might as well take it. The flyers, that is. I may have made them at work, is the point of them. I work for the county, if you didn't know.
I heard you were a lineman for the county.
I just want to break into 16 tons now for some odd reason. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in... Okay, so, and I actually did break into 16 tons, thank you. When we last left Izzy Fizler, we had begun chapter 1 of the novel based on the true story of the Illuminati, which in turn is a fictionalized account of a romantic liaison between Henry Kissinger and Bette Midler in 1972, which is loosely based on the VH1 Where Are They Now segment on the cowboys from the popular Pace Picante salsa commercial. Now, Izzy Fizler, like so many great writers before him, John Irving, well heck, Suzanne Summers for that matter, tends to write stories within a story. So the next segment is a story that just continues apparently throughout the entire novel, at least through the first 5 pages, coming and going. I'll probably end with that. What I'm gonna do is try to skip down to the next chapter in the book. It's called Untitled. From the Izzy Fizler autobiography, Metafiction for Dummies. Izzy Fizler is not my true name. I wanted to avoid anonymous, per se, as there is likelihood that my writing would be lumped in with the works that I had nothing to do with, like Primary Colors, a lengthy sequence of penthouse letters to the editor, or Beowulf. This would detract from serious consideration of my oeuvre. Is that how you say that? Oeuvre, over? It's not my words.
Close enough.
I became Izzy. It wasn't much of a sacrifice since I always wanted a nickname. Well, a nickname of my own choosing, as children can be quite inexact. I felt that broad strokes like Stinky or Assface, not to say that those were my nicknames, but one shouldn't become too attached to a moniker thrust upon them by a nose-picking elementary student who hasn't yet been faced with the challenges of long division, catcher in the rye, or pubic itching. My father, who comes from another generation, one that is one older than my own, had numerous nicknamed friends. Odd thing is, they all seem to be named Lefty or Righty. As it turned out, it didn't always even correspond to their dominant writing hand. Of course, they did need something to distinguish themselves from each other, so there was a little lefty and a big lefty and the other big lefty, etc., etc. My grandfather, who grew up in the Depression in Chicago, had a more rich selection. He was called Little Swede since the age of 13 because he apparently looked Nordic, though his bar mitzvah picture didn't really reflect that. I was never told if there was a Big Swede, though his brother was referred to as Big Suede, ostensibly because of his taste in shoes. Now, they had friends like Yummy and Gummy and Chowie and Boozy and Balloonhead and the Flop, rest all their souls. Now, when I was a child, Grandpop told me really pointless stories about all these individuals, and quite honestly, I don't remember a solitary detail. In fact, when he would tell any given story, I would completely zone him out, but for the mention of the nickname. Oh yeah, Orange Julius Rosenberg, right, Grandpa? Tell me that story. Again. So I partially became Izzy Figler for sentimental reasons, but also for practical reasons. Now, you may be questioning why I chose a pseudonym when I do public readings. In other words, what is the point of anonymity if everyone knows who you are? Well, not everyone. Did you forget about the paper trail? As Art Bell says to an engaging radio guest in that space before he opens the phone lines, but after he quotes Robert Anton Wilson, why haven't they assassinated you yet? In my case, the answer was simple. My guiles. P.S. Quotation marks are like bunny ears that go hippity-hop-hop-hop around the bush. P.P.S. Scooping up the field mice and boppity-bop-bop-bop-bop, zippity-scap, batty-skibbity-skibbity, light brush on the light hat, hi-hat. Tonight, Mel Torme, rest his soul, rips up my bathroom for the last time, I think. Probably more on that later. Infra, Izzy, me, have a blank resume. I hereby disavow all my alleged schooling and ostensible success. I never used any active words in any manner of supervision or planning or anything. I am not creative or innovative and have no real experience, at least as it relates to learning from assignments or mistakes. I am unaccredited, impervious to the hate crime of who I am. The education I received left me with nothing but for the rushing torrent of random early morning, evening phone calls from cocky strangers without the same level of education as me, still quite adept at instilling in me various degrees of willy, but the ultimate joke is on them because they are no more frightening to me than the masses at large. As an aside, my garnishes are too paltry to wage, thus the sandwich has never looked right, all lost in space and whatnot. Again, I am not guilty of achievement mea non culpa, to wit, if there ain't no corpus delicti, take off my flamin' necktie, or if you got the proof, I'll have the pudding and eat it too, but until then, just let me simple crackpot conspiracy theories that I fancy myself to be, and I thank you to keep your finger out of my pigeon's hole. Also, my hobbies are nil. I am a blank, blank wolf. I do get by, however, by taking what they're giving while manifesting an ardent, contemporaneous, absorbing engagement in the labored process of working for that aforementioned living. If you can call it life, and if you can, then truly you do believe in love, the power of love, that is the heart and soul, the heart of rock and roll. But remember, that same heart is the beat, eh? If this is it at all, I want to know. Meanwhile, I want and got this novel substance, one that replaces the six that I was talking about previously. It's a drug called freedom. Well, that was the word etched into the pastel yellow pill anyway. I got it at an all-night party in the middle of some warehouse of which I cannot seem to remember the address. Freedom, it made the beat march to me. Freedom, it sexually wetted otherwise innocuous parts of my body. Freedom, just another world for nothing left to lose. I don't want no litigation. I'm just slowly sitting down at the typewriter and documenting the record. Nothing up my sleeve, because my sleeve is up my arm, and my arm is at my side, and my side of the story is that the story continues. Okay. Here's shuttle diplomacy in the bathhouses of New York. A story within the story. Well, that just rambled. I like that. Shall we schwitz? Jonah asked Irving, a bead of perspiration already forming on his brow glistening with seduction. They both owned substantial portions of Hollywood and were quite adept at math. This was a far cry from their humble beginnings in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. This was Muskegon, Michigan, for Christ's sake. Jonah, a former philosophy teacher at Muskegon Community College, met Irving, a tenure-track English teacher from Murray State College, at a conference on world domination given in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Meanwhile, some 800 to 1,200 kilometers away, a group of cowboys gathered around the campfire just spitting and cussing, cussing and spitting until old Cookie fixed up some grub. "Wait," said Zane, the lead cowboy, his 14.5-liter hat dusty from the drive, his leathery skin tanned by one too many disappointments. Lost opportunity was his albatross. He never understood why he always failed, why he never could qualify for that loan or that grant or that fellowship, why he was always a little logy even after light meals, why there was bright flashes in the nighttime sky that suddenly disappeared until happenstance led him to trip over a small cylindrical bottle half buried in the dirt. "The picante salsa that Cookie's been using was made in New York City." "New York City!" the other cowboys spontaneously utter in unison, much spit spewing from their teeth through the slick sea, the smell of disdain ignited by fire flames. One cowboy named Zebediah grabs for the rope at his side, which is already preformed into the shape of a noose. "I got the rope," he proudly proclaims, having waited for a moment like this since junior college rush week. Rush week. Cookie von Huschelschmidt began to sweat. Flashback to his days at Fresno Culinary Institute. He wasn't well liked there either. The culmination was the intrastate chili competition during the final of his 3 scheduled semesters. He placed on his school team but consistently failed to show up for practice chili runs. This left his 2 teammates in limbo. After many unreturned messages left at his own dorm room, they approached the dean, who called Cookie into his office. "Cookie," said Dean Smith, "FCI has lost the ISCC the past 3 years in a row, and we'd really like to see that tin pot hanging in the trophy case. Now, I've received a request from your teammates that you be removed from the team, and please, Dean, I know I've been somewhat remiss in my practice duties, but I spent a lot of time on the front end developing our team recipe, a lot of research hours on red pepper variants. I understand their position, but I think my contribution to this point has been, well, unappreciated. I know that chili inside and out. Please, Dean, keep me on the team. I'll hold up my end. I'll make this work. Cookie, I don't like being placed in this position. I know I should. The competition's in 4 days. It's important to the school. It's important to me. I figure, damn, Cookie, you could stay on the team, but just try to get along with the rest." He left the dean's office knowing that he couldn't get along. He never got along. He really didn't care about the chili competition. It was a resume booster endeavor. Anyway. No, he couldn't stand the humiliation of losing his position. He felt bad about groveling, but knew it was what he had to do. He had stayed ahead. He had won again. Still, Cookie looked forward to escaping the allegedly hallowed halls of academia. No one here cared for Cookie. Whether misunderstood, thought arrogant, or discarded as too eager to please, this was not his time to thrive. He coveted a place away from here where he could finally apply his arts, making money, feeding mouths. The rope was placed over Cookie's neck. His thoughts turned to the Lord's Prayer, then salvation from the mouth of Hickam, the most literate of all the cowboys. "Hold up! The picante jar also indicates that this salsa was made by a Jew." "A Jew!" the other cowboys spontaneously utter in unison, much drool dribbling from their pursed-out lips through the lingering "ew." Zane proclaimed a reprieve for Cookie with the caveat that if any further investigation revealed collusion between their mostly beloved cook and the bland Jew salsa, as he referred to it, then Cookie would be quote-unquote heavy back in the shit. "Fellows, we are dealing with an insidious syndicate of individuals bent on destroying our simple yet complex way of Western life. Mount 'em, boys," Zane called out to his fellow cowpoke, and so they rode and they rode on their way to New York City on a quest to find and severely deal with the Semitic object of their unbridled scorn. Oh, at this point in the story, it's important to note that this does not reflect the views of all cowboys, just these cowboys. So they make it to New York City, and the first person they run into is Dennis Weaver, who strangely enough is still wandering the streets on horseback, even though McCloud had been canceled years before. Zane makes inquiry as to the whereabouts of the Picante Jew. Dennis Weaver suggests the deli. Where is this deli? You can't miss it, Dennis Weaver responds. It has a storefront that says deli on it. Zane leads the pack slowly up and down the streets of Manhattan. He knows that what is about to happen, this confrontation, will be a life-defining moment. His hope is that whatever lesson is to be learned, that he lived through it, that he passes it on to his yet unborn son. This could be, he thought, the prophecy of Revelation. Chapter 2, The Pickled Tomato Tomentum. Clint Eastwood and Franz Kafka argued about the tray of sauerkraut and pickles in front of them. How many fingers you think fished through that before it came to us? Asked Clint. Franz responded, I just don't know. It can't be sanitary, said Clint. Franz shrugged. You think the Lord is subtle? That's a segue, Franz shot back. Clint often would rehash old conversations. Last week, Franz suggested that the Lord works in mysterious ways. There's nothing subtle about slathering lamb's blood on the doorpost, Clint assailed. That was the end of the rope. What about the other plagues? You don't think the Egyptians should have figured it out when the water turned to blood or when the frogs fell from the sky? Just let the people go already. And then the disgusting boils and the pestilence. And still they have to say, look, we're not kidding. Firstborn. You like your firstborn? So maybe we should let the friggin' people go. Oh, please, I'm going to get a hot dog. What looks good to you? At that moment, a monumental crash interrupted their dialogue. It was Zane and the boys busting through the window looking for a lean cut of retribution with a side order of vengeance. Clint reached for his gun. Chapter 3, The G-Pride. The thunder of the G-Pride parade was sudden and swift. Tuba blasts from the lips of Teutonic honeypots, big-boned and drendled, sharply hacked the evening air. The crack of metal, then rubber, then metal again on the asphalt signaled the arrival of yet another amateur twirling squad from the burbs. Give the ladies a hand for enthusiasm, folks, and check out their sparkling fringe minis. Doesn't that deserve a hand, folks? Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Tough crowd, John Kenneth Galbraith muttered under his breath. And here comes the giant, lovable, but cynical fat cat balloon. The people on the sidewalk standing to cheer, lasagna, lasagna, lasagna. Well, that got them to their feet, Indira Gandhi retorted. The cable holders quickly learned the meaning of the expression cable-ripped flesh as the winds pick up and away. The cat flies to the moon, pow, zing, the cat dangling, human jewelry, one on each nipple too, wow. 3 short city blocks down the road, Clint tells Zane, look behind you. Zane, sensing the sincerity in Clint's voice, does, without any hesitation, look behind him. Together all the cowboys turn and stare at this curious sight, though not hearing the impotent screams of the errant cable handlers, which were masked by the abrupt arrival of the brave-faced tuba troupe. The show must go on, thinks a nearby John Paul Getty. Ironically, the floats held to the ground by gravity drive by. The cowboys briefly forget their mission and join in the celebration. Look, says Jitty, there's Goebbels and Goering. Them ain't really Nazis, replied Dark Bart. Just a couple of male models dressed up to play the part. I like their hair, interjected one cowboy who rarely spoke. In fact, none of the other cowboys even remembered his name, as he so rarely spoke that he was rarely spoken to. In a calculated fashion, Franz Kafka loudly pointed out that the rose-saturated Che Guevara Martha Graham float was trailing closely behind. There sure are a lot of flowers. I'd say 100,000 or more, marveled the cowboy who rarely spoke again. Revolt, called the cheeky Che impersonator in festively pink beret and bad stage beard through the crackly mobile PA. Revolt, answered the real Martha Graham, launching into her famous social and feminist conscious piece created in 1927 called Revolt. I've never been to New York before. This is incredible. Oh, look, it's Germaine Greer float coming up the street. Does anyone have a camera? Asked the cowboy who previously had only rarely spoke. What's your name again, partner? Zane inquired. Recoiled the nameless cowboy into the background. For a second time, Clint reached for his gun. That's end of page 5. That's crazy. What am I thinking? This is a poem. Prisoner Feng Shui. No, move the cot diagonal to the shithole. This is called Prisoner Feng Shui 2. If you flood the cell for political protest, make sure the water flows eastward. What's that? And for Christ's sake, this is a holiday reading, and I'm going to do one holiday piece and then turn it over to Greg. I know I've taken up way more than my allotted time, but fuck, I'm the superstar. Man, where did that come from? I know exactly where it came from. If you'd like to talk to me afterwards, I can tell you for 2 hours. This next piece was prepared for tuba accompaniment, but because Ginger didn't show up...
I am here, but I did not bring my tuba.
Hey, it's Ginger Brenner, everyone! Ladies and gentlemen, Ginger Brenner!
Want me to go get it?
No, it's just bullshit. I saw you walk in late. I just wanted to make a spectacle.
Oh, thanks.
Do that again.
This is the first poem I ever gave to anyone as a present. And it's a Christmas poem, and it was given to Geoff Carter. It's called Sugar Plum. And then I'll be ending. Thank you for your patience. A lot of words in that last one. Sorry. Okay. Self-awareness killer. Self-awareness killer. Stop. Stop. On the first day of Christmas, I didn't get anything because I don't have a true love. On the second day of Christmas, hey, what's the scam? Christmas is a one-day deal. It doesn't go to January 6th. It doesn't start on December 13th. On the third day of Christmas, my true, non-existent love gave to me, though not really, 3 French hens, definitely hens, whatever, skipping directly to the only day that seemed to make any sense to me growing up, day 10, maids a-milkin'. This so perfectly combined my sexual curiosity and energy around the holiday time with the holiday time. Oh yes, when day 10 came around, maids a-milkin'. I wanted to see those maids a-milkin' dressed up in little French maid outfits to boot. 10 maids, hell, make every day a maid a-milkin'. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 maids a-milkin', 11 maids a-milkin', 10 maids a-milkin', 9 maids a-milkin', 8 maids a-milkin', 7 maids a-milkin', 6 maids a-milkin', 5 golden rings. I always really love that part. 4 maids a milking, 3 maids a milking, 2 maids a milking, and Dayvid Cassidy doing something in a pear tree. Okay. I long for Christmas Day. My stockings hung by the chimney with beer in hope that Satan's powers will save us all when we go astray. But I have no gift for you, drummer boy. Parump, parump, bum. Thank you. Bye.
And we're out of time.
I'm sorry.
That concludes our program for this millennium. I want to thank everybody
no.
for...
I didn't go over. So, what happened?
It's after 9. It's time.
We started late.
Just pull me off.
Does anybody want to hear a poem by Greg Crosby?
No.
It works if you stomp your feet and chant, Greg reads a poem. Greg reads a poem.
Greg reads a poem.
Greg reads a poem.
I'm sorry, Greg.
All right, this is my poem.
Pathetic.
This is my poem. It's very short.
No, come on, do the real poem.
Dayvid Figler can handle the guilt. Actually, I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight, and of course, I want to thank my fellow travelers, Mr. Geoff Carter. And Mr. Dayvid Figler.
Don't anybody go. Greg's going to read a poem that he wrote for tonight outside, right in front. Make him.
I'm sorry. I'm
And,
sorry. I start talking and I don't stop. Pick up the flyer too, by the way, on the way out.
Yeah, get his flyer.
Right outside.
At any rate, thanks very much. Have very happy holidays, and best wishes for the new century. Good night, and thank you.